Hey guys, it's Alexis. I am back with a brand new video. Happy Monday. Thank you as always for being here. And today I am talking about the tips and tricks about conscious creation, about you, your person, your relationship, you. What does everyone as you pushed out mean? How do we apply it? I'm going to apply also some things I've heard from clients recently that have been moving through and evolving through their own situation. And they've said things to me that have really helped that I think would help everyone. And yes, let's get into it. All right. So before I get started, the links for booking one-on-one coaching, the links for booking one-on-one hypnosis with me are all in the box below. The links also to all of my pre-recorded hypnosis audios, courses, all that good stuff is also in the box below. Like I say in every video, if you look on my online calendar and you do not see something available that works for you, please email us directly at sessions@createyourfuture.co. You could put something in the subject line, session with Alexis, and we will get you sorted, figure it out in your time zone, and get you something that works for you. All right. So yeah, you guys, now let's get into the content today. And this is really about a refresher about the basics of what I talk about in like every video. Okay. If you're new to my videos, I've got over 200 videos. At some point, it's going to be 300 and I'll have to look and adjust it in terms of what I say. But right now, we're still at over 200 videos, okay, about your concept of self and you, how who you are creates your relationship, how who you are creates you and everything around you, okay? So let's talk about this phrase that I've said a lot in videos and we hear a lot on the internet. Everyone is you pushed out, and how can you appropriately apply it? What does it mean? Okay. I'm going to come at this from a neurolinguistic programming, alternative psychology perspective, give some examples so that you can get it. What everyone is you pushed out, first of all, is that everyone and everything is somehow, some way a reflection of me. I don't agree with that. And I would encourage you to not take that idea on. Who wants to walk around the world thinking everything is actually me? No, it is that everything and the people inside of you, how you choose them to be, how they show up, et cetera, is who they end up being and how it ends up unfolding in your reality. Now, the basis of all of that is you. The thing about the phrase that we have to think about, everyone is you pushed out, meaning that the perspective that you have on you dictates the perspective and association you have to others and therefore creates reality. Like reality is a projection, reality is a creation, but your perception is going to be and is always dictated by your baseline perception of you. It's the easiest way to think about it. Like, let me give you an example of Margaret. I'm using a name I've never used. Let's say someone's name is Margaret, and Margaret has a mother-in-law whose name is Marjorie. Okay. And now let's say Margaret is working through some things. She's having some things going on. She's got 2 kids with Marjorie's son. Okay. And they've got a whole bunch of things going on. She's trying to figure it out. And Marjorie doesn't show up to pick up the kids to help her out on time. Okay. Now, Margaret's automatic thinking and automatic association, automatic perception, unless she has worked on changing this, is going to show you who Margaret thinks that Margaret is. Now, Margaret could be thinking something like this as an example. Oh my gosh, here's another person who's not helping me. No one shows up for me. Everyone is just like taking care of themselves. I'm so left out. I'm not included. I'm not important. I'm not special. Can something just work out for me? Can I just get some help? It seems like everything is so difficult. Why is everything so difficult? Why is everything so difficult for me and not difficult for them? Why does it seem like some people have help and I don't? I never have help. Okay. It sounds like a pretty normal self-talk if Margaret has continued to think and believe that she is not important. She doesn't matter. People don't show up for her and she doesn't have any help. She has no assistance, which therefore means she has to do everything on her own. Okay. So let's think of another scenario. Let's say Marjorie's like running late and she's like calling Margaret and saying, hey, I'm so sorry. I got caught up doing this. I got caught up doing that. I got a phone call from so-and-so and I am on my way. Okay. So let's say that Margaret believes like, okay, people do show up for me. Like I do have help. I am assisted. I can rely on other people. Other people give me reliability. Like sometimes things happen, but most of the time things can kind of work out. And I'm really good at relying on myself too. And this whole thing is okay. Let's say that's her normal self-talk, like all throughout the rest of reality, all throughout time. What is Margaret's thought going to be about Marjorie? It's going to be, oh, okay, she's running late. Like, you know what? Not ideal. I also have a million things to do, but no problem. Like, I know she's going to be here soon. Things happen. This is okay. Okay. So if we look at the two different scenarios, now there could be a million inner conversations, inner talks of self that both Margaret and Marjorie could be having, right? Marjorie. But what really we want to look at is who has Margaret always been? Who is Margaret always being? And the way that you can look at this is, who am I? Baseline about me. What do I think about me? And you guys, the easiest way to notice what you think about you is listening and observing. What do I hear myself talk about me? When things happen, right? A lot of people find this kind of work when stuff's hit the fan, right? You can observe when people are doing things, what do you make it mean about you? I'm going to say it again. When people are doing things like that you don't like, right? When things are happening, right? What is the story and what is the inner conversation? What is the inner dialogue that is going on with you? The problem with a list of affirmations and let's manifest my SP and let's make this a quick fix type of thing is that oftentimes people aren't catching what's the inner dialogue, what's the inner conversation, what's the inner chatter throughout the rest of the time when you're not doing a list of affirmations. Now, I am a proponent of lists of affirmations. I am obviously a proponent of what's your mental diet, okay? But you want to understand that quiet, seemingly quiet, your reaction to other people's reactions is where you can really get to the bottom of who are you being. Again, everyone is you pushed out means your perception on you, i.e. your beliefs, assumptions, ideas, and feelings about you as a person, give you a thought, give you a perception about others, and then bam, okay, you create reality. That's how it works. So this is not like, I had a really, really, really wonderful evolving session this week with one of my clients. And she said to me, you know who you are. She said to me, Alexis, I finally get it. You have said the same thing in every video. I just finally get it. It finally clicks. Now, most clients, they start to have this happen more and more as they really, really, really are growing and changing and evolving and realizing it's all about them. But it's all about the version of them that they've been being that then creates the whole thing. And she started to say this and I thought, oh, it's clicking. She's getting it. And I think like once people figure this out, do you ever wonder like, how does Alexis come up with a new way to talk about this weekly? You guys, I have rarely, besides when I was on maternity leave, have I not put out weekly videos, all having the same message. It's you. Meaning, who are you being? Who are you showing up as? How do you feel about you? What do you think about you? The way that you change your perception of a person is you change your perception of you. And that's not going to be done by just like a list of affirmations. I'm going to think this and throw it out there. No. The list of affirmations, the list of new thoughts, the mental diet is to get you geared toward and understanding what it's like to think thoughts of the version of you and the version of them and the version of two of you. Okay. So I thought this was so interesting. I said, yeah, well, yes, this usually happens for people. I say similar things. I have the same guidance over and over and over again. It took me, Alexis, in my journey, hearing and implementing the same things, persistency, consistency, diligence with my concept of me, especially in times of change, crisis. Change, crisis being like an identity shift or a lack of identity. We've all been there, right? But it really is like, I can't say it enough. That is what everyone is you pushed out means. It's everyone is you, not meaning, oh, like Tom, Dick, and Harry are all me. No, it's your perception of you and your thoughts of you and who you're being, i.e. who you've always been and the version of you that is different. What's going on here? Okay. And it does take people a fair amount of time to really get this concept, understand the concept, implement it, see some change, see some growth. And then everybody at some point says something like this dear, wonderful client, like, oh, I get it. It's been me all along. Meaning it's me about me for me. What do I think about me? Okay. You change you and you change everybody else is the idea. Like you guys have heard those sayings, you shift you and everything shifts. And that is really how you synergistically make a quantum jump. You get into the appropriate reality, all these things you've heard, but you guys, none of that jargon matters. Like, I actually think it's kind of funny when people tell me like, oh, you know, I get it. I've studied quantum physics and I've done this and I've done that. I understand. I too had to learn about all these things to understand how to educate about this topic, but none of it matters unless you're changing. Like, none of it matters. And there are people all around the world who are changing their concepts of themselves without watching YouTube videos about, you know, quantum this and all these things that, you know, people who are overthinkers, overanalyzers think it's going to help them to really get it. But in the trying to get it process, they're not implementing the actual work. The actual work of doing this, changing you, thinking thoughts of you that are favorable, changing that inner chatter, inner dialogue, inner speak all of the time can be the most challenging, most difficult thing to figure out how to do it. When you're not doing it, how to do it purposefully and correctly, but it will be the most rewarding. Okay. So let's take another example of things that we see a lot with specific people in relationships. And that is the theme of rejection or abandonment. Okay. Now, if you have manifested and created a breakup, a separation, a lack of connection with your person, I want you to ask yourself, who are you walking around thinking you're being? Now, even if you're doing a list of affirmations, you know, this is the thing, you guys, that's why the term that I don't use, that somebody else came up with, robotic affirming. That's why that works and gets things going, because then you're not entertaining the old story of self. The only issue I have with calling it or being robotically affirming is that what you want to do for everything you want to manifest? It does not resonate. I don't like it, but you know what? I understand why people use it, and it can be helpful in times of, you know, an emergency situation that you have to just really, really, really think the appropriate thoughts. You can't let other thoughts in. You know, your thoughts create, so you've got to think. I get it. Okay. That's why that works, because the old story can't come in. In any event, let's think of the ideas of rejection and abandonment. Okay. Now, what I want to say out the gate is that if you are transforming yourself in your relationship and you realize like, oh, I was beginning to take everything as rejection, just silently, quietly over time, you want to start deciding that nothing with your person ever at any point means abandonment or rejection. Now, how do you know you're going into a rejection story? They don't like me. They don't want me. This never works out for me. I am not the one that gets love. I'm not the one that gets loved. I'm not the one that gets the guy. This isn't happening for me, right? I'm left out. Everybody else is getting married. Everybody else is having children. I'm just over here not getting it. I'm never going to have it. Is it ever going to work for me? Love doesn't work out for me. Now, that's actually kind of abandonment and rejection, you know, and it doesn't necessarily matter, but you guys want to decide that for changing your concept of self, you have to decide that you're lovable as you are, likable as you are, valuable, worthy, and enough. And that your person sees you as valuable, worthy, and enough. But the more that you see yourself that way, then the more that your mind will see that other people see you that way. It's when we have we're questioning and doubting ourselves, because our thoughts create, and our thoughts create who we're being. When you're questioning, wondering, doubting, am I this, am I that, am I that? All you do is put big question marks to people in your reality. All people kind of will then say is like, oh, well, I don't know, like maybe whatever. Now, this isn't about other people, though. It's about you. And this is how you have to do this. It's necessary, is to really, really work on honing in on your concept of you. Okay. So let's say you are currently understanding this and you're like, okay, Alexis, I get it, but like, how do I do this? Let's say that you've got a list of affirmations, because, you know, I like lists of affirmations. They're just a go-to to understand who am I being that, and deciding that and treating yourself that way. Now, let's say you have a list of affirmations and you are doing your list of affirmations, you're thinking them like 3 minutes a day, 3 times a day. And it's not even necessarily affirmations. It's your time for affirming the you that you desire to be, the version of you who is loved and adored and wanted, chosen, value. So let's say you're doing that 3 times a day, I said, right? But let's say sometime outside that time, something happens with your SP, and then you go into the old story. Oh, he doesn't this. Oh, he's not calling. Oh, he's not this. He's not into me. This is not going to happen. Yada, 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 yada. The whole story comes in like a mother effing freight train into your mind, because that's the way the mind works. The mind goes to what feels familiar, what you've always thought, what it's used to thinking, and it does not want to think the thoughts that you're choosing and the story of you being wanted, valued, just because it doesn't find it familiar. So in that moment, what do? You stop yourself and you say, okay, my mental diet and my thoughts and my inner conversation, inner talk, inner self-talk about me and myself are the most important about this topic. So no, absolutely not. Thank you for sharing, but I'm going to focus on who I want to be. Either go back to your affirmations, stop the thoughts, or get onto the story of self. That's why this takes a lot of due diligence, a lot of persistence, and a lot of consistency with understanding this. Now, the more that you do this, the more that you focus on the who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Which would just be thinking, no. I am so valued. I am so loved. I am learning that I am so valued and I am so loved. This is working out for me. I am changing my perception about all of this. I am ready for this to be who I am, yada, yada, yada. Let's just say. Then your mind, the funny thing about our minds is it will quiet the old story, the thoughts of the lack, and it will start to feed you the thoughts of this when something happens. But you got to do it for a while to understand what I'm talking about. Again, coming back to the principle, everyone is you pushed out means that your perception of you creates your perception of them. And then all of a sudden you will say to me in session, all along, he wasn't rejecting me at all. He was busy with work. He was doing this. He was unhappy. He had things to work on. He apologized and told me there were so many things going on with me. Alexis, all along, guess what? It wasn't even about me. That's where I don't like clients to make everything about them. Like someone says something and it's like, oh, that's about my belief about me. Like, no. Absolutely not. And we're all living in our 3D experience, so we came here for a reason, and you get to decide. The funny thing is this, you get to decide and choose what you make about you and what you take on. You can also just say, oh yeah, whatever, and I'm still focusing on me. My day is great. I am living my life. I'm so happy. Things are coming together for me, yada, yada, yada. Do you see? So you can't get around the need to change yourself in terms of, it's not fixing yourself. It's actually taking off all the labels that you've taken on as you. When you came into this lifetime, you came into this body, you were perfect, whole, and complete. It was actually things that people said, things that people did, things that your parents did, things that your friends did, things that school teachers did, things that coaches did, way back when, that you took on, and you took it on as fact, and then you began to create the self that you are now. That's all that's been happening, you guys. So it's actually like removing all the labels, removing all the descriptions, and just being you, being good enough, more than good enough, worth it, valuable right now is you because you're you. Okay. Now, unfortunately, the story is that most kids are not given this by their parents and caregivers and people in their reality. That's just a fact. Okay. A lot of our parents just did the best that they could. They kept us alive. They provided, they did things, but that the actual nurturing, the self-concept, the self-esteem, and the confidence wasn't there. Okay. But you can do it on your own. It is up to you to put on your big girl pants, big guy pants, and give yourself the gift of safety, security, stability, confidence, and self-esteem. And then that will enable you to think the appropriate thoughts of your person. What you do not want to do is to just spend your time affirming for what they're going to do, using your thoughts in that kind of regard, and then negating yourself, and then coming back and being like, this doesn't work. Yes, that will not work, because you have to change your thoughts about you in this scenario and learn how to do it. It gets easier. All right. So I also want to point out too, that it does not need to be something that you have to overanalyze and overthink and over illustrate and overwork in your mind. I find that a lot of the very smart, overthinking people make this whole process way too complicated, and you don't have to do this. Just think, okay, if I was the confident version of me, the self-loving version of me, how would I think about myself? How would I treat myself? How would I spend my day? How would I structure my time? And you guys begin doing these things. You can't negate that when you treat yourself a certain way, you give yourself a certain kind of love through your activities, your endeavors, your hobbies, your self-care, all the things, you begin to feel and think like you're the biggest priority, because you are. Now, you need to be the biggest priority in your reality, because if you're the biggest priority, it allows you to show up for everybody else, because you're changing the inner thoughts and the inner dialogue and the inner conversation about who you are. Right? It's not like an egotistical thing where you should be humble instead and like kind of be like, oh no, I'm not that great. I'm not that important. No, that won't enable you in every endeavor. And it's not even taking an over egotistical viewpoint. It's just saying my livelihood, my self-talk, and my focus on myself is the most important, because as I am the most important for me, I am showing up and everybody's important for me too. Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. Now, if we go back to the analogy I said in the beginning of the video with Marjorie and Margaret, right? Let's say that Margaret did a session with me. She told me this whole thing. She was talking about her mother-in-law and she went on a yada, like, and you guys, this is what everybody does. It's a good example. Yada, 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 yada. I can't believe she did this. I can't believe she was late. Didn't I tell you that last week my husband was late? And didn't I tell you before that my mom called me and there's this issue with my dad, who's an alcoholic, who's getting out of rehab? Okay. We all have so many layers going on in our lives, you guys. Like, it's actually a miracle that we interpret everything and keep going. Okay. But these are very real life examples. Okay. So like, let's say she says this to me and I'll say like, hold on, Margaret, hold on, stop. Like, I'll have to do one of these. Just a minute. How can we change your perception of you? What have you been thinking about you? And what can we maybe think of Marjorie? I want you to reword what you just said and tell me a different way that we can think and a different perspective that we can think. Now, the funny thing is oftentimes just through session, I am offering a new perspective about Marjorie. And then Margaret, my client, will be like, oh my God, you're so right, Alexis. Like, I didn't even think of it that way. And I will say, yes, like, I'm just thinking of it from a third party perspective. You can take it on if you want, but like, why do we want to think that Marjorie is against you? She's not. Nobody is against you. Let's just think this is coming together for me. She was kind of busy. Next time, she's going to be super on time. Now, if you can do that and not make it about you and not make it a rejection story about you, Margaret, then guess what's going to happen? Marjorie's going to be so on time next time. She shows up 5 minutes early with cupcakes for the kids. Okay? Because reality will show you what you're telling it to show you, and it will often deliver the ideal manifestation, even like more exemplary, even like a bigger version. Okay. So do you see what I'm saying? And through these examples. Okay. So you have to change your perception of you. Okay. So again, if my client was Margaret, I would say, Margaret, hold on, wait a minute. Let's slow ourselves down. Let's get in the moment. Let's just get here. Come here with me. And how can you tell me how the version of you who is loved and adored and wanted, how would she perceive and interpret this scenario, right? Now, it's interesting because when we start doing this in session with people, they'll get and it's always like, usually a romantic SP, but they'll get like a message like, oh my God, he's calling. I've had clients be like, sorry, Alexis, I got to go because he's calling. He's called twice. I think he wants me to go pick something up. Okay. Now, why is that? It's because through having a new perception of self, maintaining your own energy, being safe and stable and secure, and just thinking like, oh, something must have been going on with them. It enables you to not be chasing, pursuing, and energetically trying to go after your person. Okay. When you bring your energy back into you, you're focused on you in a healthy, wonderful, good way. You then allow like everyone comes through. Okay. How many times have you guys experienced that? Like you need something to happen. You have so much resistance about it. And the moment you're like, okay, whatever, right? It's not saying that you don't care about the manifestation or you're in the, this or something better mindset. It's letting go of the story of the lack, the story of the resistance, being focused on yourself in a different way. Okay. It happens all the time, like weekly. I always get asked that too. In comments and stuff on videos, like, do people hear from their SPs and when you're in session? Yeah. A lot of the time people do. And it's funny because I can always see, because people look, you know, they get messages. I don't have them on my computer, but I can see if people get a message and I'm like, was that him? Was that him? Of course it was. He hears us talking about him. Your thoughts are things your thoughts create. You focus on you appropriately and other people get the message, meaning they come through because you're not focusing on the negative thoughts of them. Okay. So again, how do you do this in practice, right? I want to encourage everyone to start, first of all, observing. You have to take an observational viewpoint on yourself throughout the day. Especially when something bothers you, you don't like it, you're feeling triggered, whatever, you have to kind of observe yourself as if you were me or if you were someone looking at yourself and saying like, wow, so that whole situation, I was so uncomfortable. I totally took it as rejection. That's interesting. You can write it down. You can take a mental note, see when it happens again. See the things that cause you to feel like you're in that negative place of self. Okay. And then you want to begin in those moments observing it and then changing the story, right? Either going for your affirmations or going for a more supportive self-dialogue, inner conversation, inner chatter, inner speak about you and being like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's no problem that happened. I'm still figuring this out. And I am safe, stable, secure within me. I'm valuable. I'm loved. I'm so adored that, you know, like it doesn't mean that. And everything is coming together for me. I don't think you guys can hear. My husband and my son are like circling my office. Talk about being pursued and loved all of the time. We have an entire house, you guys, in a huge property, and they're circling my office because they're cleaning back here. You know, everyone's just waiting for mom to be done. So, you know, things can come in way more direct than you can sometimes plan on. But whenever I'm out here, and today is a Friday, it's like Friday vibes. Everyone's like ready. I think my husband put out the ping pong table. I'm going to be the champion. Okay. So in any event, you guys, you got it. You have to do this with diligence and persistency and consistency and really get used to an inner self-talk that you probably never had. Now, most of us on planet Earth are walking around with an inner self-talk and inner conversation that's like, oh yeah, some things don't work out for me, or that area is so difficult. I never seem to have enough money. I never seem to be of the right body type. I'm not getting this. I'm not getting that. I'm not getting this. I'm not getting that. Remember that person that was so this and so that, blah, blah, blah. Like, you do not need to continue thinking that way. You actually want to think that everything is working out for you, that you are a lucky charm, that you are thriving and learning how to live your best life, and that you're really figuring it out. But be your own accountability partner, treat yourself in a way and think about yourself in a way that is of self-love, self-value, self-importance. And that's how you can begin really seeing the fruits of everyone is you pushed out, because when you're thinking about yourself that way, then you think good thoughts of everybody else and everything lines up because your thoughts create. All right, you guys, I'm going to get to my ping pong game. I love you guys so much. Have a great Monday. Take this as your reminder to put yourself first this week. Put your thoughts first. Start changing your natural perceptions of things, and everything with you and your SP and the relationship and love will come together. All right. I'll see you guys in my next video. Have an awesome week. Mwah. Bye.